What do I believe about the origins of the universe? I don't know. I tell you what I understand. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a cosmologist. I have friends who are, and they have tried. Lawrence Krauss sat with me for probably an hour in a taxi trying to clear up some misunderstandings that I had. I have a physicist friend in Austin who used to have the office next to Weinberg there, who wrote a textbook that they use there on quantum mechanics. He's very interested in cosmology. He's actually currently reviewing a model that is set to compete with the Big Bang cosmology. Now, what do I believe? I believe that the Big Bang model is the best current explanation that fits the evidence. That's exactly what science does. It attempts to explain what we see. I believe that I can have confidence, not faith, because I have evidence that the scientific community have demonstrated an expertise here, and that the process of hypothesis, testing, modeling, making predictions, submitting it for peer review, and falsification leads most consistently to the best possible results. If you want to know how something in reality works, that's the most reliable method. Nothing has ever disproved science but more science. There's no religious book that has disproved science. There's no religious insight that has ever come from religion that was of any use at all until it had been confirmed by science. Now, am I advocating scientism? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know what the origin of the universe is. I'm not sufficiently conversant in the subjects. But I know what the best current model is, and I know that if it changes, it'll be based on evidence and reason. I don't have a good answer. Or do I? See, sometimes I don't know is the best answer. I don't know is the answer that lets you go out and find the actual explanation, rather than pretending that I have come by the one and only possible explanation, which was coincidentally recorded in the holy book that I happen to believe in, and seems to fit my own preconceptions. I can't think of a better explanation than God done it. Fallacy. Well, you can't prove that God didn't do it, so God did it. Fallacy. Look at the Kalam cosmological argument, which he raised earlier. Everything that begins to exist has a cause for its existence. You know why that first premise has that everything that begins to exist? Because the old one just said everything has a cause, and that screwed them over when it came to God. So they modified it and amended it. That's what they do with all these arguments for the existence of God. Now it's everything that begins to exist has a cause for its existence. Is that true? It's an inference. Don't know that we've come across anything that began to exist and didn't have a cause, but we might have. All kinds of weirdness in quantum mechanics. There's experiments that have been done with electrons where the direction that they come out after being put through this thing, which I'm not even going to attempt to explain because I'm an idiot when it comes to physics. We know it's 50-50. Absolutely no way to predict which way any individual electron's spin is going to be. It seems to be in effect without a cause. And I have some physicist friends who are actually lobbying that there are many such causeless effects. So I don't know that the first premise is true. After you get past everything that begins to exist has a cause for its existence, there is the universe began to exist. Did it? What do you mean by that? Certainly the local representation of the universe that we witness can be traced back to just before the Big Bang event, which has at least been confirmed by observation of cosmic microwave background radiation. But we can't go past the Planck time. And as far as we know, time started with the Big Bang, so before the Big Bang is absurd, which means there couldn't have been a cause before because causality is necessarily temporal. So if there's no time, then there's no time to do anything. So maybe there was an uncaused event. I don't know. All I do know is I don't see any good reason to think there was a God that magicked the universe into existence. I don't understand why it would need to do that. I don't understand the exorbitant fashion in which it did all this. It doesn't make sense. But moreover, there isn't any evidence for it.
The Bible never answers the question, how old is the planet, how old is the universe? So from the Bible, I do not know how old the universe is. That's why I turn to science. And science at this point shows that the universe is about 15 billion years old, 13.7 billion years old. And that's why I accept the universe as being about 13.7 billion years old. The Bible says, in the beginning, God, not in the beginning, hydrogen. Why is that important? That's important because in all of my observation, you never get order and design by chance as a result of an accident. So, if science points to evolution as being the most reasonable, the best supported theory of how we came about, I have no problem with that. What I do have a problem with is the philosophy of evolution as an origin, which states behind this amazing order and design, there's no intelligent mind, there's just chance and fate. I'm sorry. Every example of order and design, separate from nature, because we're obviously debating the issue of nature, but every example of order and design that I see demands a designer. A shirt demands a tailor. If I prepare a delicious meal, set it before you and say, there's no cook, this just happened, that's absurd. If you and I are walking through the Black Hills of South Dakota, we come around a corner and all of a sudden, wow, we look up and there are the heads of 4 presidents on that Mount Rushmore. And if I say to you, wow, isn't it amazing the way the glass just sort of trickled over the rock? Wow, there's George Washington. There's Thomas Jefferson. And there's old Rough Rider Teddy Roosevelt. Isn't it amazing the way that the water just carved out those heads on Mount Rushmore? That's unreasonable. Why? Because the order and the design of those 4 presidents' heads on Mount Rushmore demands a sculptor, demands someone who has forethought, intention, and understands how to bring order out of chaos. So if that's true of everything that I observe in life, then when it comes to the issue that we're debating, which is the universe, nature, the human eye, the central nervous system, it is far more reasonable, it is far more plausible for me to believe that behind the order and the design of the universe is an intelligent mind than it is for me to believe that it's all just chance and fate. And that is one of the main reasons, to tell you the truth, that I overcome my doubts when I doubt God's existence. Because order and design, repeatedly, 100 times out of 100, points to an intelligent mind. Now, I love speaking at Texas State. I also love speaking at the University of Texas, up in Austin. And there's a wonderful philosophy professor there named Rob Kunz. He's a philosophy professor at UT Austin. And so I invite Rob to come out and communicate his faith to the students. And Dr. Rob Kunz, the philosophy department at UT, stands up and says, one of the reasons that I'm most grateful for my faith in Jesus Christ is I do not have to struggle through epistemological nihilism the way my fellow philosophy professors do here. Epistemological nihilism is basically an understanding that if there is no God, you can't know anything ultimately with certainty. Why? Because what is your mind? Your mind is an accidental collection of atoms. What is your mind? Well, as Charles Darwin wrote to a man named Mr. Graham in a letter, your mind is simply a highly developed monkey's mind. Would you trust the thoughts of a monkey, Darwin asked. See, that's what I say is intellectually consistent. If I believe that my mind has no intelligent mind behind it, but is simply the result of chance and fate, then why do I trust my mind to tell me that it's just the result of chance and fate? I was speaking at Columbia University in New York City, and a bunch of freshmen came out of humanities class, and they said, Cliff, how do you know that your mind was not put together by a bunch of very intelligent scientists in a vat this morning? I thought that they were playing games with me. They weren't. Their Columbia University professor was encouraging them to think through the logical implications of there not being a God. If there is no God, your mind is simply a chemical accident. Why do you trust the chemical accident? The reason I trust my mind is because I'm convinced it's not an accident. It's a gift from a rational creator.